Welcome back to Pika, where every night we explore fascinating why questions and gently lull you to sleep. Tonight, let's join Pika to find out, why does the Earth give us four seasons? Listen along to discover the answer and drift off into a deep sleep. The air feels soft around you as if it has been freshly ironed by the stars above. You wander into a small clearing where the grass is damp with night dew, and there, perched on a tree stump, you see a squirrel with a bushy tail that glimmers in moonlight. This is Nino, the curious squirrel who has made it his mission to solve the mysteries of the universe with you. He gives you a nod, the kind of nod that says, "Yes, I've been waiting for you," and you suddenly feel as though you've stepped into a bedtime adventure. Nino twitches his whiskers, as if sniffing out tonight's why. He whispers, "Do you ever wonder why the Earth doesn't just give us one endless season? Why not only summer? Why not only winter? Why do we get all four?" His eyes sparkle with mischief, as though he knows you're about to chase something much bigger than an acorn. You follow him as he bounds through the grass, tail flicking like a feathery compass pointing the way. The night sky above is sprinkled with stars, each one shining so patiently that you almost imagine they are tiny lanterns left on by cosmic caretakers. You feel small and cozy beneath them, like a traveler in a huge but gentle universe. As Nino scurries ahead, you notice how the ground feels cool, and you pull your shoulders up against a breeze that tickles your cheeks. Isn't it strange, you think, how the same Earth can be warm in one season and shivery in another? Maybe the stars are just giant mood lamps adjusting the temperature of the world. The thought makes you smile. Nino pauses by a patch of clover and stands on his hind legs. "Here's the secret start," he says softly. "It's all about how the Earth leans." You blink, realizing you've never thought of a planet leaning before. Planets seem like they should stand straight and proud, like globes in a classroom. Yet Nino insists Earth is tilted, a little like when you can't quite balance your pillow on your head and it keeps sliding to one side. You picture Earth spinning in space, wearing an invisible hat that keeps slipping to an angle. And that small tilt, Nino explains, changes everything. The way sunlight strikes the ground, the way shadows stretch and shrink, the way days grow longer or shorter. All of it begins with that playful lean. The squirrel hops closer, tail brushing against your arm like a duster. You see, if Earth didn't tilt, you'd walk outside every day to the same kind of weather. Summer might as well be forever, or winter might stretch on endlessly. No cozy leaf piles, no snowflakes on eyelashes, no flowers waking up. Just one season, on repeat, like the same song stuck in your head. He makes a little squeaky sound, as though horrified by the thought of one season forever. You giggle because the image of squirrels endlessly stuck in summer, collecting the same acorns again and again, feels a little silly. Or maybe worse, a world stuck in endless winter, squirrels buried under scarves bigger than themselves. It makes you grateful for the variety Earth gives. As you follow Nino deeper into the clearing, your steps feel lighter. The grass whispers against your ankles, and the night hums with the faint chirp of crickets. You think about how lucky it is that the planet leans, and how a small angle creates such huge change. Isn't it curious that something so tiny can shape entire lives? Nino tilts his head, as though hearing your thoughts. Even a little tilt can make a whole world dance differently, he says, his voice like a hush in the leaves. It's funny how small things have such big voices in the universe. The stars above seem to wink, as if agreeing with him. Maybe the stars are just nodding storytellers, encouraging you to keep listening. Nino's eyes grow dreamy. Shall we chase the sun's path and see how the tilt plays out? Come along. And with a leap, he darts toward the shadows at the edge of the field. You trail behind, feeling like the story has only just begun, as though the night is wrapping you gently in its arms, promising more wonders to come. Nino scampers up the low branch of an oak tree, his tail puffing like a soft question mark against the sky. He looks back at you and chirps, "Remember what I told you? The earth leans. Let's get closer to that tilt." His little paws make a circle in the air, as if drawing the planet itself. You tilt your head along with him, almost feeling your own balance sway, like when you're riding a swing and you lean just a little too far back. The Earth, Nino explains, isn't perfectly upright. It leans about 23.5 degrees. Not much, he says, whiskers twitching. But that's enough to make the world feel completely different, depending on where you stand. You picture Earth as a globe at school, not stiff and straight, but leaning forward like it's trying to eavesdrop on the sun's secrets. It makes you chuckle to imagine our planet as a nosy neighbor. Nino hops down beside you, landing with a soft thud in the grass. Imagine if you held a flashlight over a ball, he continues. If you tilt the ball, one side gets more light and warmth, while the other side gets less. That's Earth's trick. That's why you sometimes squint under a long summer sun, and other times wrap up under a shy winter sun. A cricket nearby pauses its chirp, as though even the insects are leaning in to hear. You imagine the Earth's tilt being like a chair slightly reclined, letting people nap in the golden stretch of sunlight. Maybe the planets all gather for a sleepover, each with its own quirky lean, whispering, "How do you like your sunlight served?" You walk with Nino as he draws an invisible line with his paw across the ground. "Here's the equator," he says. "The tilt means that sometimes the top half of Earth, what people call the northern hemisphere, leans closer to the sun. That's when your summer arrives. At the same time, the bottom half, the southern hemisphere, leans away. Down there, it's winter." He pauses to let that sink in, eyes glimmering like two polished chestnuts. It's almost funny to imagine penguins down south waddling in the snow, while people up north are sweating through ice cream cones. Nino giggles. The Earth is like a seesaw. When one side is up, the other side is down. The thought makes you smile too, as though our whole planet is playing on a playground ride with the sun pushing gently from the side. You feel a gentle breeze sweep over your cheeks, and the thought crosses your mind. Maybe the wind itself is the Earth sighing as it tilts, rocking slowly in its eternal chair. The breeze ruffles Nino's fur, and he looks up with a dreamy expression. "Small tilt. Big difference," he whispers, almost as if to himself. And here comes tonight's fun fact, delivered with Nino's little squeak of pride. Without this exact tilt, we wouldn't have the seasons at all. Earth would be one endless monotone. Crops wouldn't know when to bloom, Animals wouldn't know when to migrate, and you wouldn't get that special joy of watching leaves explode into colors each autumn. You picture a world stuck forever in spring, flowers never quite finishing their song, or in summer, sun too strong, cicadas never pausing their buzzing. Nino's nose wrinkles at the thought. Too boring, he mutters. The stars above twinkle like diamond sprinkles, and one seems to pulse a little brighter. You wonder, maybe the stars are secret teachers, nudging Earth into its tilt just so life could be more interesting. You glance at Nino, wanting to ask, but he's already hopping ahead, his small figure outlined against the dark meadow like a shadow puppet. He stops and turns with a grin. So, Earth's tilt is the stage. The sun is the spotlight. Ready to see how the play unfolds? His tail flicks like a conductor's baton, inviting the orchestra of seasons to begin. You nod, stepping forward, already sensing that the tilt is only the opening act of a much bigger performance. The grass beneath your shoes feels springy, almost like it knows you're walking toward deeper secrets. You can't help but smile. The tilt suddenly feels less like a dry fact and more like a magical lean that makes your entire life burst with variety. And with Nino as your guide, you're ready to trace that light and shadow all the way around the sun. Nino darts ahead, paws pattering softly against the earth, and you follow him toward a wide-open meadow where the horizon feels impossibly far. He stops in the middle, tail curling like a question mark, and raises his paws as if presenting a grand stage. "Now," he says, eyes twinkling, "let's dance around the sun." You close your eyes for a moment and picture Earth, not as a tiny marble, but as a graceful dancer, spinning on her tilted toes while circling the sun in an endless waltz. Nino chuckles. Yes, yes, imagine the Earth in a glittery dress, sparkles flying everywhere, doing laps around a golden spotlight. You laugh softly and the sound feels lighter than the night air, as though the stars themselves giggle with you. The orbit, Nino explains, isn't a perfect circle, but more like a stretched out oval, what scientists call an ellipse. But don't be fooled, he warns with a squeaky grin. The seasons don't come because of distance. Sometimes Earth is closer to the sun in winter than in summer, depending on which hemisphere you're in. You blink, surprised. That fun fact rattles your mind like a marble in a jar. So it's not about how near or far Earth sits, it's about the tilt and how that tilt meets the sun's rays. You imagine Earth as a skateboarder looping around a giant glowing ramp, leaning one way, then the other, catching the light differently with each sweep. Nino leaps into the air to mimic it, landing with a wobble that makes him squeak. See, even I can't balance without tilting. His whiskers twitch as if proud of his clumsy little demonstration. The air feels cool but steady, and you sense the invisible journey your planet makes. One whole lap around the sun every 365 days, each season a chapter in that orbit. You wonder, maybe the months are just bookmarks left by Earth to remind herself where she paused in the dance. It's a comforting thought. That time itself is tied to such graceful motions. Nino climbs onto a rock to get a better view, or maybe just to appear more professor-like. So as Earth orbits, its tilt keeps pointing the same way in space, toward the North Star. That's why sometimes the northern half leans into sunlight and gets long days, and half a year later it leans away and gets long nights. The southern half does the opposite, like a partner in a dance, spinning around at just the right time. You picture two children holding hands, one stepping into sunshine, the other stepping into shade, then switching places as they spin in circles. It makes you smile. Nino taps his paw against the rock and says softly, "The seasons are just Earth's way of keeping rhythm with the sun." The stars above glitter as though nodding in agreement, and one streaks suddenly across the sky, a shooting star that vanishes before you can make a wish. Still you wonder, maybe wishes don't need to be spoken if the Earth already carries them in her orbit. Each loop around the sun, a whispered promise that life will keep cycling back. The meadow grows quieter, as if the crickets themselves are listening. Nino's voice softens, almost as though he knows you're getting sleepier. When you walk outside in June and feel the heat, or in December and see your breath puff white, you're actually feeling where Earth is in her dance. Every flower blooming, every snowflake falling, it's all choreographed by this orbit and tilt. He hops back down and brushes against your ankle. "Not bad for a giant spinning rock, huh?" His playful grin makes you chuckle again, and you feel warmth in your chest despite the cool night. The ground feels steady under your feet, but your imagination drifts. You sense Earth carrying you gently through space, spinning and circling, like a cradle that never stops rocking. The idea settles into you like a lullaby. You are always moving, always in the dance, even when standing still. Nino stretches, his little body arching like a comma in the story you're writing together. He sighs contentedly. We've got the tilt. We've got the orbit. Next, you'll see what happens when those two combine to wake the world in spring. His voice feels like a feather landing on your shoulder, light and soothing. The stars blur a little as your eyes grow heavier. The meadow hums with quiet life, and you're aware that the dance continues, slow and eternal, whether or not you're awake to watch it. Nino leads you to the edge of the meadow where the soil feels softer, almost springy, as if the earth itself is yawning awake. He wiggles his nose and says, "This is where spring begins." You take a deep breath, and the air feels fresher, as though it has been scrubbed clean by gentle rain. The scent of damp soil and budding flowers seems to float on invisible threads around you. Spring happens, Nino explains, when the hemisphere you live in starts leaning back toward the sun. The days grow longer, the nights shrink, and the warmth slowly tiptoes in. You imagine time as a curtain rising, revealing a stage full of blossoms. The tilt of the earth has gently shifted the spotlight, and now sunlight lingers a little longer each evening, coaxing life from the ground. Nino picks up a fallen twig and uses it like a pointer. See, the sunlight hits at a new angle. It's not so sharp like summer yet, and not so shy like winter either. It's gentle, just enough to wake up the plants. He scratches a little diagram in the dirt, though it looks more like doodles than a science lesson. Still you nod, because you can already see the meaning in the air around you. The meadow is changing. Tiny buds swell on unseen branches, and you can almost hear the stretch of petals unfurling. A butterfly drifts lazily past, as though it too has been called out of bed by the longer days. You think, maybe flowers are just Earth's way of smiling back at the sun. Nino's fur ruffles in the breeze, and he pauses to nibble on an acorn he's dug from somewhere. "Did you know," he squeaks proudly, That in spring, the word equinox means the days and nights are almost equal? It's like Earth is balancing on a seesaw for a moment, perfectly, even before leaning again. The fun fact sits in your mind like a shiny pebble. Equal day, equal night, a moment of harmony. You picture the sun as a sleepy teacher ringing a soft bell, telling the world, "Wake up, class, it's springtime." You giggle at the thought of squirrels sitting in tiny desks, sharpening pencils made of twigs, preparing for a new season of lessons. Nino raises an eyebrow at you as if he knows what you're imagining, then shrugs as if to say, "Not wrong." The ground beneath you feels alive, warm from below, and you realize how much power sunlight holds when it returns after winter. Seeds sense it. Animals stir from hibernation. Rivers swell with melted snow. The entire Earth seems to sigh with relief. Maybe the planet itself feels lighter, like you do when you finally stretch after a long nap. Nino scampers onto a low branch and looks down at you. "Notice the bird?" he asks. And sure enough, you hear the faint call of a robin, sweet and hopeful. Migrating creatures follow the tilt too, as though they have tiny calendars hidden in their hearts. The squirrel grins. They don't need phones or clocks. They just feel the earth's lean and know it's time. The sky above glows with a gentle blue, though night still drapes itself around you. You wonder, maybe the stars are secret guardians, holding back winter's darkness just enough for spring to sneak in. The thought makes your eyelids feel heavier, as if spring itself is cradling you. Nino hops down and brushes against your ankle, his fur soft like a duster. So when you see the first bloom or hear the first chirp of a bird, remember, it's all because of that tilt in orbit we talked about. Earth leans a little closer, and suddenly life sings again. You walk together through grass that feels softer now, and every step carries a hush of beginnings. The season doesn't shout, it whispers gently, insistently, like a secret spreading through roots and wings. And as you follow Nino's flicking tail, you feel as if you too are waking up with the world. The air feels warmer now, as if the night has put on a golden coat. Nino scampers ahead, tail flicking like a ribbon in sunlight you can almost taste, even though stars still guard the sky. He chirps, "Here comes summer, the crown of the year." You imagine the earth leaning in close to the sun, almost whispering secrets, and the sunlight arriving in long, generous waves. Nino explains, "When your hemisphere tilts fully toward the sun, the days grow longest. The light pours down more directly, heating the ground, filling the air with warmth." He lifts his tiny paws to mimic rays shooting straight down, his fur glowing faintly in the starlight. You can almost hear summer's hum, a buzzing chorus of bees, the playful shrieks of children by rivers, the crackle of ice cubes in tall glasses. The memory makes you smile. Maybe the sun isn't just shining. Maybe it's throwing the biggest party of the year, and everyone's invited, from ants to oak trees. Nino pauses at a patch of wildflowers, their petals glowing faintly in moonlight, and says, "Here's a fun fact. In the northern hemisphere, the longest day of the year is called the summer solstice. On that day, the sun seems to pause in the sky, rising early, setting late, as if it doesn't want to leave." You picture the sun lounging with sunglasses, refusing to go to bed, and the image makes you laugh softly. The world feels full during summer. Crops grow tall, leaves spread wide, rivers sparkle. Nino stretches on his back legs, paws reaching up. Plants soak up all that energy, storing food and strength. Animals race about, building, feeding, living in high gear. He makes a silly sprint in circles, then flops dramatically, panting like a squirrel that's overdone its marathon. You chuckle again, the sound blending with the warm hush of the night. A warm breeze brushes your cheeks and you wonder, maybe summer winds are just the earth exhaling after months of building light. The thought makes your eyelids grow heavier, as though carried by that breath. Nino nibbles on a seed, cheeks puffing adorably. But summer isn't just hot days and sweet berries, he says between chews. It's also balance. The earth can't lean toward the sun forever. Already after the solstice, the days begin to shrink, almost invisibly at first. That's the cycle's promise, always moving, never stuck. The stars twinkle above, and you think about the strange comfort of change. Even the brightest, hottest days bend eventually toward dusk. Maybe that's why people cherish summer nights so much. They feel borrowed, precious. You glance up wondering, maybe the stars are reminders not to take daylight for granted. Nino sits back on his haunches, paws tucked neatly, eyes shining. So when you're lying on warm grass, when your skin glows from sunlight, remember, it's the tilt, bringing your world as close to the sun's fire as it dares. That's why berries ripen, why cicadas sing, why shadows shrink to tiny puddles at your feet. The meadow feels alive, every blade of grass humming faintly with the memory of sunshine. You feel warm too, even under the cool quilt of night, as though the very idea of summer has wrapped you in its glow. Nino hops onto your shoulder for a moment, light as a puff of down. He whispers, "But warmth cannot last forever. Just ahead waits autumn, painted in fire, teaching us how beauty comes when things begin to change." His voice is gentle, and you know the story will soon drift into colors. Nino hops lightly from your shoulder to the ground, and the air around you shifts as though someone has dimmed the golden glow of summer and replaced it with a softer, coppery light. You take a step, and leaves crunch faintly beneath your feet. Though the trees nearby are still dark silhouettes, Nino's voice hums with a touch of reverence. Now comes autumn, the season of painted cloaks. You imagine Earth still tilting, but just beginning to lean away from the sun. The light slants more gently, shadows grow longer, and the days, so bold and bright in summer, begin to shrink back. It's the same dance, Nino reminds you, but now the music slows. The sun sets earlier, the air cools, and everything begins to prepare for rest. The night air feels cooler on your cheeks, a whisper of crispness like apples stored in a wooden crate. You picture trees letting go of their green, trading it for fiery reds, glowing oranges, soft yellows. The world becomes a quilt, stitched together by the tilt of the earth and the sun's fading touch. Nino trots ahead to a small pile of leaves, dives into it with a rustle, and pops out with one stuck to his head like a crown. "See," he chirps, "even I get dressed up for autumn." You laugh quietly, the sound carried away by a gentle breeze. He pauses, paws resting on the leaf crown, and says softly, "Did you know that leaves change color because chlorophyll, the green pigment, breaks down when the sunlight weakens? Hidden pigments, red, orange, gold, finally get their turn to shine." The fun fact sits warmly in your mind, like a candle flickering. You marvel at the idea. Beauty was always there, hidden, waiting for the right season to appear. As you walk, you picture squirrels, including Nino's cousins, darting through branches, stuffing acorns into hiding places. "We know what's coming," Nino says with a wink. "We're stocking up. The tilt tells us the cold is on its way." You imagine tiny squirrel calendars with red circles around September, and the thought makes you chuckle again. The stars above feel sharper tonight, gleaming against a darker sky. And you wonder, maybe they twinkle more in autumn because the air is crisp and clear, like polished glass. Perhaps the stars are simply admiring the Earth's new outfit of orange and gold. Nino bounds beside you, tail brushing the ground. Autumn is also a season of harvest for humans. Fields of grain, orchards of apples, pumpkins piled high. People gather what the summer gave, celebrating before winter arrives. His voice softens, and you imagine lantern-lit festivals, hands wrapped around warm mugs, laughter rising like smoke into the cool night. The ground feels crunchier under your feet, as if the earth is offering you a carpet of brittle leaves. You think about how endings can be so beautiful, how every fall leaf is a tiny reminder that change doesn't have to be sad. It can blaze with color. Nino hops back onto a low branch, the leaf crown sliding down his ear. He tilts his head at you. So remember, autumn isn't just about endings. It's the Earth's way of tucking itself in, wrapping the land in color before sleep. The tilt turns the page, and the world sighs into stillness. The breeze lifts the leaf from Nino's head, carrying it upward, spinning like a small dancer before vanishing into the night. You watch it go, eyelids heavy, and feel the hush of the season settle in. You know what comes next. The quiet blanket of winter. The meadow grows quieter still, as though every cricket has tucked itself under a leaf and gone to bed. The air cools until your breath turns faint and silvery, drifting like smoke. Nino scampers ahead, paws sinking softly into frost-tipped grass, and his voice lowers to a hush. Now comes winter, the quiet blanket. You feel it immediately. The world seems to pause. The tilt of the earth has leaned your hemisphere away from the sun, and the rays arrive slanted, weaker, spread thin like butter on too much bread. The days shrink, evenings stretch long, and darkness feels like a heavy quilt. Nino stops by a bare branch and flicks his tail. This is when the sun rides low in the sky. It doesn't climb as high as summer, doesn't linger as long. That's why the world cools. You tilt your head, picturing the sun sitting lazily near the horizon, barely peeking above the edge, as though it's too sleepy to rise. The image makes you smile softly. Maybe the sun just wants its own nap after powering everyone through summer. Snowflakes begin to fall in your imagination. Soft, slow, each one a tiny star that lost its way and drifted down. Nino dashes through them with squeaky joy, catching flakes on his whiskers. "Here's a fun fact," he squeals happily. "Snow looks white, but it's really just clear ice crystals reflecting light. A whole blanket of reflections, sparkling as one." You picture billions of tiny mirrors turning a silent world into something dazzling. The ground crunches under your shoes, as though you're stepping on scattered sugar. You feel wrapped in winter's hush, a kind of stillness that makes even your thoughts tiptoe. Perhaps the world needs silence the way a story needs pauses, to let the words sink in. Nino climbs a stump and gazes up, nose twitching. Animals hibernate, trees rest, rivers slow under ice. It's not an ending. It's a breath before the next beginning. He curls his tail around himself, mimicking a sleeping ball. You imagine squirrels, bears, even frogs dozing in hidden dens, their dreams stitched from starlight. The stars above are sharper than ever, piercing the cold night sky like frozen lanterns. You wonder, maybe the stars shine brighter in winter because the world itself is quieter, offering them a darker canvas. Nino squints up as if listening, then nods. Maybe so. Maybe the stars love winter too. You walk slowly, every step cushioned by frost, every inhale crisp and cool. The silence feels deep but not empty. It feels protective, like the earth tucking you under its own blanket, promising renewal soon. You realize that even in the darkest, coldest nights, the planet is only resting, waiting to turn again. Nino hops back to your side, his paws leaving tiny prints that vanish in the frost. So winter isn't a punishment, he says, voice soft like snow itself. It's the balance, the hush, the gentle pause in Earth's cycle. He blinks slowly, his eyes reflecting stars. And as your shoulders sink into the stillness, you know that soon the tilt will bring another shift, and the world will turn toward light again. For now, though, the quiet is enough. Winter is the deep breath before spring's song. Your footsteps crunch faintly as you and Nino wander farther, the night crisp yet gentle. He pauses on a frost-tipped stone and curls his tail tightly around himself. But here's the curious thing, he says softly. When it's winter for you, it's summer for someone else. You tilt your head, puzzled, and Nino points his tiny paw southward, toward lands you can't see. The Earth's tilt doesn't just change your world, he explains. It changes the opposite side too. When your hemisphere leans away from the sun, the other hemisphere leans toward it. That's why while you're shivering, penguins down in Antarctica are waddling under a high summer sun. The thought makes you laugh quietly. You imagine penguins in sunglasses, sipping iced tea on floating icebergs, while bears up north wrap scarves around their noses. Nino chuckles too. It's like a cosmic seesaw, up for one side, down for the other, always balanced. You picture Earth in space, tilted as it circles, half of it bathed in light, the other half tipped into chill. The planet feels like a globe in a giant classroom, spinning slowly under the patient gaze of the stars. You wonder, maybe the stars are the teachers, nodding each time Earth tilts just right. Nino hops closer, his whiskers twitching. Here's a fun fact, he squeaks proudly. Right now, when it's June in the north, it's December in the south. People in Australia celebrate the holidays in warm sunshine, while people in Europe or America pull on mittens. Same Earth, different lean. The fact swirls in your mind, making the planet feel both small and enormous at once. You walk together through the meadow, and it's easy to imagine the whole globe spinning beneath your feet. Crops ripen in one place while snow falls in another. Birds fly across invisible lines, carrying songs from summer skies into winter forests. Perhaps the earth itself likes variety, offering each half a turn under warmth and a turn under chill. Nino scrambles onto your shoulder, light as a feather. He leans close and whispers, "Imagine if you could dig a tunnel straight through the earth. If it's winter where you are, you'd pop out into summer." You giggle, picturing yourself emerging into a sunny beach with sand clinging to your boots. The image feels silly and strangely comforting. The stars above twinkle like tiny switches, flipping seasons back and forth. You wonder, maybe the stars themselves are the guardians, making sure the seesaw never tips too far one way. Nino blinks up at them, as if agreeing with your unspoken thought. The ground grows softer, less frosty, as if even your path is shifting with the seasons. You sense that every turn of Earth, every lean of its tilted axis, creates balance across the globe, one side resting, the other rejoicing. Nino yawns a little squeak and says, "So remember, when you wrap yourself in a blanket, someone far away is stepping into sandals." The Earth is fair like that. It shares the seasons between its halves. His words drift into the night like a lullaby, and you feel the rhythm of the planet rocking you gently. The frost beneath your feet softens as you and Nino drift farther south in your imagination, toward lands where the tilt of the Earth feels different. The air warms, the night insects hum again, and a gentle rain seems to fall in your mind's eye. Nino stretches his paws wide and whispers, "Now, imagine standing at the equator." You pause, curious, and he nods. Here, seasons aren't bold and separate like the ones you know. The sun's rays strike almost straight all year long. So instead of sharp swings between hot and cold, the rhythm is steady. Warm days, gentle rains, endless green. You picture the equator as a bright golden belt wrapped snugly around the Earth's waist, glowing evenly. Crops grow year-round, rainforests stay lush, rivers gush with constant life. It feels like standing in a garden that never tires, a world that hums in a single unbroken song. Nino scampers onto a low vine and peers down at you. "Here's a fun fact," he chirps. "Near the equator, the length of day and night hardly changes. Almost 12 hours of each, every single day. The sun rises and sets like clockwork." You blink, imagining your own days always split so perfectly. No long summer evenings, no stretched winter nights, just balance, forever. The thought makes you smile, though part of you misses the drama of change, the blazing autumns, the snowy hushes. "Exactly," Nino says, reading your face. "That's why life near the equator doesn't need heavy coats or long migrations. Instead, creatures adapt to constant warmth and rainfall. Birds nest year-round, insects buzz endlessly, and plants climb toward the sky without pause. You listen closely, and the night itself seems to thrum with jungle noises. Parrots calling, monkeys chattering, frogs croaking from puddles. The air feels heavier, damp with imaginary rain, and the stars above blur slightly, as though seen through a mist. You wonder, maybe the stars near the equator shimmer softer because they're viewed through layers of warm, rising air. Nino grins, tail flicking. Some places do have wet and dry seasons, times when rain pours and times when skies clear. But even then, the warmth stays. No icy blankets, no fiery autumn leaves, just the steady heartbeat of sunlight. He taps his paw against his chest for emphasis, and you almost hear the rhythm of the planet itself, pulsing steadily beneath your feet. You giggle quietly at a silly image that pops into your head. Squirrels living at the equator, lounging in hammocks made of banana leaves, sipping coconut water instead of bearing acorns. Nino snickers too. "Hey, not a bad idea. I could get used to that." The ground feels springy and moist underfoot now, as though you're walking through a rainforest floor. The scent of rain seems to hang in the air, mingling with faint sweetness of fruit. The steady warmth presses against your skin, not heavy, but constant, like being wrapped in a cozy blanket that never cools. Nino stretches luxuriously, whiskers twitching. So here at the equator, the Earth's tilt barely matters. It leans, but the sun never drifts far away. Instead, it's the rains that mark time, the steady drumbeat of clouds gathering and pouring, then pausing. His voice softens, and you feel the gentle pattern settle into your chest, like a lullaby in liquid form. Above, the stars shimmer behind clouds, faint but still present. You wonder, maybe the rains are just the sky's way of watering the earth's great garden. And maybe the stars hide behind the clouds because they trust the rain to sparkle in their place. Nino hops down beside you again, brushing your ankle with his tail. So the equator shows us another side of Earth's balance. No fiery summers, no icy winters, just a steady song. A reminder that not every rhythm needs drama. Sometimes the gentle pulse is enough. You nod, eyelids heavy, lulled by the thought of endless warmth and green canopies. You know the tilt still matters here, but differently. The seasons blur, time softens, and the earth hums a quieter tune at its middle. The steady hum of equatorial rain fades as Nino tugs gently at your sleeve, guiding you toward a rocky ridge where the air feels lighter, cooler, more open to the sky. He pauses, nose twitching, and says, "But remember, the sun isn't the only dancer shaping Earth's rhythms. Look up. The moon is watching too." You follow his gaze, and there it is. A silver coin hanging in the night, glowing so softly it seems to hum with calm. The moon feels closer than the stars, like a lantern someone hung just above your path. Nino's eyes gleam. The moon doesn't make seasons, but it pulls on our oceans, stirring the tides. Every shore, every wave, they rise and fall with her. You imagine the seas as giant bowls of soup, sloshing gently back and forth. Because the moon tugs with invisible strings. Nino grins. Here's a fun fact. The moon's gravity pulls water toward it, creating high tides. On the opposite side of Earth, water bulges too, like the planet stretching both arms toward the sky. You picture Earth with watery sleeves, raising them up in a sleepy dance, and you chuckle softly at the image. The air feels moist, carrying a faint echo of waves, even though you stand far from the sea. You close your eyes and almost hear it. The slow rush, the retreat, the whisper of foam folding back onto sand. Perhaps the earth itself sighs in rhythm with the moon, breathing in and out through the tides. Nino balances on a rock, his tail flicking like a metronome. Tides remind us, Earth's motions are layered. The tilt makes seasons, the orbit sets years, the moon stirs the seas. Everything is linked, one rhythm joining another. His voice lowers, almost reverent. It's like a grand orchestra playing while you sleep. The stars shimmer above and you wonder, maybe the moon is the conductor, lifting her pale baton, guiding waves, whispering cues to oceans. Maybe the stars are the musicians, plucking and humming in harmony. The thought makes you smile, dreamy and slow. Nino hops down and scurries in a circle, leaving tiny paw prints that look like miniature constellations in the frost. And just like the sun's path changes the length of day, the moon's cycle changes the light of night, waxing, waning, glowing full, then vanishing. Another clock ticking softly in silver. You watch as clouds drift across the sky, framing the moon in fleeting windows. Each glimpse feels like a wink, a gentle reminder that cycles never stop. Maybe the moon hides and shows herself not out of mystery, but out of rhythm, teaching you that endings are only pauses before another beginning. The night grows stiller, and you notice your own breath falling into rhythm with what you imagine are the tides. Inhale, exhale, wave, retreat. You feel small but safe, as if cradled inside an immense, gentle heartbeat. Nino leans against your ankle and whispers, "The moon's pull, the sun's warmth, Earth's tilt, they all work together. No piece alone tells the whole story. Life is made of many layers of rhythm." His words settle softly like snowflakes into your thoughts. And as your eyelids grow heavier, you realize that the question of seasons has grown into something larger. The earth isn't just leaning, it's listening. Listening to the sun, the moon, and the endless music of the cosmos. The moon's silver glow lingers behind you as Nino scampers ahead, leading you into a clearing where tall stones rise like quiet guardians. Their shadows stretch long across the ground, pointing toward the stars. Nino hops onto one of the rocks and whispers, "Long ago, humans watched the sky too. They needed to know when the seasons turned, and so they became sky watchers." You run your hand along the cool surface of a stone. It feels ancient, worn smooth by countless nights of wind and rain. Nino's tail flicks as he explains, "Before clocks, before calendars, people looked at the sun's path and the tilt of Earth. They marked where shadows fell, where the sun rose on the longest day or the shortest. Some even built giant stone calendars, like Stonehenge in England, that still stand today." You close your eyes and imagine it. People gathered in firs, breath puffing in cold air, waiting for the sunrise on the solstice. When the first ray of light slipped between stones, they cheered, knowing winter would slowly release its hold. Maybe they danced, maybe they feasted. The tilt of Earth gave them hope, and they etched that hope into stone. Nino perks up, whiskers twitching. "Here's a fun fact," he says proudly. "The word solstice comes from Latin, sol meaning sun, and sistere meaning to stand still. That's because for a few days the sun seems to pause in its north-south journey before turning back again." You imagine the sun catching its breath, pausing politely before continuing its slow walk across the sky. The stones around you glow faintly in starlight, and you wonder, maybe they are just old bookmarks left by ancient readers of the sky to remind themselves of Earth's eternal story. Perhaps each carved rock whispers, "We watched, we waited, we remembered." Nino scrambles onto your shoulder and continues in a softer voice. "Farmers use those patterns to know when to plant seeds, when to harvest crops. They didn't have weather apps or flashing calendars. They trusted the heavens. Every sunrise, every shadow, every tilt mattered." You picture fields of wheat swaying in summer winds, shepherds guiding sheep by starlight, children chasing fireflies while their parents looked upward to read the year. The night seems thicker here, as if full of echoes. You imagine the murmur of chants, the clap of drums, the hush of people staring at the horizon. The Earth's tilt was no secret to them. It was a truth written in light and shadow, patient and eternal. You breathe deeply, and the cool air feels almost sacred. Maybe the stars are storytellers, repeating the same tale to every generation, waiting for us to notice. Maybe they nod when we finally look up. Nino's eyes glimmer. "So you see, humans and animals both listen to the seasons. We gather, we store, we migrate, we rest. The tilt isn't just science, it's survival. And for those before us, it was also wonder." His tiny paw pats the stone beneath him, as if thanking it for keeping time all these centuries. The clearing falls silent, yet not empty. You feel surrounded by the presence of countless watchers who stood here long before you, eyes lifted, waiting for the sun to rise just right. The thought comforts you, like being part of a story much older than yourself. Nino nuzzles your cheek, soft as moss. We've seen how the tilt guides humans in the past. Next, let's see how it shapes the lives of animals, how every wing, paw, and whisker moves with Earth's seasons. His voice drifts into the night, a bridge between history and the living world. The ancient stones fade into the distance as you follow Nino into a forest, where the branches arch like cathedral ceilings. The ground is softer here, covered with pine needles and moss that hush your every step. Nino darts up a tree, perching halfway with his tail wrapped around the bark. Now, he calls down, let's watch how animals adapt to the Earth's seasonal clock. You tilt your head and listen. The forest is alive with tiny sounds. An owl hoots somewhere deep inside. Crickets chirp, and you swear you hear the faint shuffle of something nesting in the underbrush. Nino explains, every creature listens to the tilt of Earth, even if they don't know the word for it. When the days grow long, when nights stretch out, we all feel it. It tells us when to move, when to sleep, when to feast. He leaps back to the ground, nose twitching. Take birds, for example. In autumn, many fly south where warmth still lingers. They travel thousands of miles, guided by stars, by magnetic fields, by instincts older than memory. They trust the Earth's tilt will bring spring back, so they'll return again. You imagine flocks of geese carving letters across the sky, carrying secret messages written by the seasons. Nino grins and adds, here's a fun fact. The Arctic tern flies farther than any bird, migrating from the Arctic all the way to Antarctica and back each year. That's about 44,000 miles, more than circling the Earth once. You gape at the thought, picturing a tiny bird flapping endlessly, following the seasons like a faithful traveler with no passport. The forest rustles, and you picture bears curling into caves, their heavy breaths slowing as winter deepens. Hibernation, Nino says softly, is nature's way of resting during the lean season. Hearts slow, bodies sleep, waiting for spring to call them back. His own tail wraps tighter around him as if mimicking a bear's cozy curl. You step carefully, and in your imagination you see deer shedding their velvet antlers as snow begins to fall. Foxes changing coats from russet to white. Frogs sinking into mud until warmth returns. Maybe, you wonder, the Earth whispers a lullaby to every species, and each responds in its own way. The stars gleam through gaps in the branches, sharp and watchful. You think, perhaps the constellations are the animals' maps, glowing arrows guiding migrations across oceans and mountains. Nino tilts his head upward, eyes shining. Maybe so, he agrees softly, as if he heard your thought. The forest feels both busy and hushed. Busy with secret preparations, hushed with patient trust. You picture squirrels like Nino tucking away acorns, ants burrowing deeper, bees clustering in hives to hum themselves warm. Each creature, no matter how small, bends to the rhythm of Earth's tilt. Nino brushes against your ankle, his fur a soft tickle. We don't have calendars or weather reports, he says with a squeaky chuckle. But our bodies know. The tilt tells us everything we need. It's like having a clock written in our bones. You giggle at the image of animals checking tiny wristwatches, owls hooting. It's migration o'clock. But the truth makes you feel calm. Life doesn't need reminders. The Earth itself is the reminder. The night deepens. The forest grows stiller. and you feel part of that same great cycle. You're not separate from it. You too shift with seasons, craving warmth in summer, blankets in winter, blossoms in spring, colors in autumn. The thought makes your heart steady, like falling into step with an endless march that never rushes. Nino yawns and curls briefly at your feet. His voice is drowsy but content. So you see, the tilt isn't just a number, not just an angle. It's a song, and every living thing knows the melody. His whiskers twitch in a sleepy rhythm, and you sense the story drifting toward the way humans, too, sing with the seasons. The forest opens into a wide clearing, and the ground feels softer beneath your feet, almost as though countless footsteps have already walked here before you. Nino bounds ahead, tail high, and whispers with a grin, "Now let's see how humans celebrate the tilt, the way we turn seasons into joy." You look around and the clearing shifts, like a dream weaving itself. Lanterns glow faintly in one corner, torches flicker in another, and you hear faint laughter, as if carried from far-off villages across centuries. Nino nods toward the glowing images. For thousands of years, people have danced with the seasons. They mark the longest day, the darkest night, the first bloom, the harvest feast. Each moment of the earth's lean becomes a reason to gather. You picture summer solstice festivals, bonfires crackling, music thumping like a heartbeat, people circling flames under the endless daylight. Nino squeaks happily, spinning in a tiny circle, his tail blazing behind him like a ribbon of firelight. Then the scene shifts, and you see winter celebrations, candles flickering in windows, warm bread steaming on tables, stories told in the hush of the longest night. "Here's a fun fact," Nino says, paws on his hips as if he's an expert historian. Ancient Romans celebrated Saturnalia in December, a festival of feasting, gifts, and merriment, timed with the winter solstice. And in many cultures today, lights and decorations still echo that joy in the darkness. You smile at the thought of the world glowing in unity across centuries, across continents. You imagine autumn harvest festivals, fields cleared, tables piled high, neighbors gathering in gratitude for what the tilt and sun provided. Pumpkins, apples, grains, all laid out as if Earth itself were hosting dinner. Nino makes a squeaky noise, pretending to nibble on invisible corn. You giggle softly. The air grows warmer in your imagination, and now you see spring festivals, flowers braided into hair, ribbons fluttering in breezes, children chasing one another under blooming branches. Nino twirls dramatically and nearly tumbles, catching himself at the last moment with a sheepish grin. Spring is when humans celebrate beginnings, just as animals wake. It's the tilt turning joy back on again. The stars above shimmer, and you wonder, maybe they watch these celebrations the way you watch fireflies, delighted by tiny sparks below. Perhaps the constellations smile when humans echo their cycles with music, food, and light. Nino scrambles up a small log and balances, eyes sparkling. Everywhere, humans find a way to turn seasons into stories. Bonfires, lanterns, feasts, dances, parades. The tilt gives the rhythm, and people add the melody. His voice softens. Even your quiet holidays, when families sit together and share a meal, are a way of honoring the cycle. You picture calendars turning, decorations unpacked each year, songs sung again and again. Maybe celebrations aren't just about the moment. They're about remembering you're part of something vast and reliable. The seasons always return, And so do the festivals. The ground feels almost musical beneath your steps, as if echoing faint drums and laughter. Nino's whiskers twitch as he sighs contentedly. So whether it's lanterns in winter, feasts in autumn, flowers in spring, or dancing fires in summer, humans celebrate the tilt just like animals follow it. Different voices, same song. You walk slower now, eyelids heavy. The flickers of bonfire, candle, and lantern blur into a haze of warmth, as though all of humanity's joy is glowing together. You realize that these celebrations are simply Earth's rhythms reflected back through human hearts. Light for light, warmth for warmth, rest for rest. Nino curls close to your side and murmurs, "And soon we'll see how this song never ends." The tilt keeps turning, the seasons keep circling, forever and ever. His voice is steady and low, preparing you for the gentle close of the tale. The glow of lanterns and bonfires fades into quiet starlight once again. You and Nino step softly across the clearing, and the ground feels steady beneath your feet, as if the earth itself is breathing slowly, calmly. Nino pauses, tail curled like a comma, and whispers, "Now you know, the 4 seasons are just Earth's endless circle." You close your eyes for a moment and picture the whole cycle as one great wheel. Spring waking in soft blossoms, summer blazing in golden crowns, autumn painting the world in fire, winter laying down its quiet blanket. Each turn comes from the same lean, the same orbit, the same gentle tilt of Earth's axis. Nino stretches his little arms wide, as if trying to hug the entire planet. "The beauty," he says softly, "is that it never stops. As long as Earth spins and circles, the seasons return. Their promises written in sunlight and shadow, in warmth and coolness, in blossoms and falling leaves." You walk together under the stars, and the rhythm of your footsteps matches the rhythm of the story, steady, unhurried, eternal. You wonder, maybe time itself is simply Earth's way of rocking us gently, reminding us that change is always followed by renewal. Nino nuzzles your hand, whiskers tickling. So when you see a flower bloom, or watch a leaf fall, or feel your breath turn to mist in the air, remember, it's Earth's tilt, always keeping time, always bringing you back to the circle. The stars shimmer brighter, and you imagine them whispering encouragement, tiny sparks reminding you that nothing is random. Every turn, every shift is part of the grand design. Nino yawns, curling into a small ball at your feet. The story of seasons is really the story of balance. Not too much light, not too much dark. Always moving, always fair. His eyes close halfway, glowing faintly with reflected starlight. You feel your body grow heavier, as though gravity itself is a lullaby. The earth beneath you is steady, tilting, spinning, circling, never stopping. You realize with quiet joy that no matter where you are, north or south, spring or autumn, you are always part of this endless rhythm. The night hums softly like a cradle rocking, like the whisper of leaves drifting to the ground. The circle continues and you are safe inside it. So let your shoulders sink, your breath slow, your thoughts soften. Picture the earth tilting gently, carrying you through the seasons like a cradle rocked by stars. Spring will follow winter, summer will follow spring, always. Rest now, within the circle, safe and endless.